Welcome all to the December instalment of our What's New, What's Next webinar. Today you have myself for a change. Dermot unfortunately couldn't make it today. And Matt, our product manager, here to tell us all about the latest release where we've been concentrating on implementing feedback from people like yourselves, our customers, on our beta survey feature. Before we start, we just want to be sure that you can access Meetoo. As usual, we'll be using it throughout the webinar today, in particular so that you can experience some of the updates in your own hands. So instructions are on the screen. Please connect to the Meetoo session by accessing the app, either by typing web.meetoo.com into any web browser or download the app from the Apple or Google Play stores. Do remember, if you have already got the Meetoo app on your device, be sure to update the app through the app stores, as we released a new version yesterday to allow for the new features. So today's meeting ID is on screen. It's 171790164. So we have got a short but exciting agenda for you today. Firstly, what's new? We've actually had a couple of updates recently. A few weeks ago, we pushed out an update to our Meetoo dashboard, and just yesterday, our apps, as I mentioned. So we have a few things to look at during the webinar today. As discussed on the last of these What's New, What's Next webinars, the main focus recently has been on our surveys feature, which was launched at the end of October. So in case you missed the survey feature update or you haven't been able to check it out yet, Meetoo surveys are a way to ask participants self-paced polling questions. So typically that's used for before or after session engagement to extend it outside the session itself, unlike the live polls, which are typically used for more instant in-the-moment feedback and engagement. So the updates we'll be discussing today will mainly be related to the improvements we've been making to that feature. As usual, we'll be doing a quick demo of some of the key changes we've made, and Matt will be taking us through that shortly. After that, Matt will continue by telling us a little bit about what's coming up next and what we've got in store for 2018. As always, there'll be a short Q&A, and then we'll be answering any questions that you have. So to kick off, we're going to start with a quick poll. So please move your attention to the Meetoo app. If you have joined late, the joining instructions in the bottom corner of your slide. So have you used the Meetoo survey feature we released at the end of October? Yes, I've used it in the live audience with a live audience or class. Yes, but you've only tested it out. No, not yet. No, I don't have a plan with access to this. That's if you're on an education-free plan. No, I didn't know there was a survey feature. So we've got a few responses in there. Probably if we close it there and have a look. Yep, so quite a mixture. Good to know that no one didn't know that it was there. So that's great. Hopefully, sounds like maybe some of you joined our last webinar back in October. So that's great. So right, we're going to move on to what's new. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Amy. So I'm going to get straight into it. I'm briefly just going to call out a few of the changes we've made now, and then we will walk through them on the dashboard. So as Amy said, the focus has been on improving and adding to the survey feature. The main one that we've introduced is the import-export feature. The great thing about this is it's not just for surveys. We've also brought this in for polls as well. Hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory, but you can now export polls from a survey. Export polls and surveys from one meeting and import them into another. Another addition we've done is the survey description field. So now on the dashboard, you can set a quick summary describing your survey, providing some instructions, which is then also reflected in the app. Then next up, we have badge notifications for surveys. We introduced an indicator for the Q&A board a few months ago, and we've now updated this to include support for surveys. And then lastly, we've just got a few UI tweaks, and then a slight little change about how you can now edit text questions in a survey as well. So with that quick summary done, let me just bring in my dashboard. So hopefully we can now step through here. So you should be seeing my dashboard on screen, and we can see that I am already on the surveys section, and I actually have a survey in here already. Now this is just a evaluation survey we will be asking you at the end, so that's not actually started yet. So the first thing I just want to bring people's attention to is what we've got, these bulk actions, hopefully to make managing your surveys and polls a little bit easier. You can see next to the survey here I've got this checkbox. We have a select all icon as well at the top, so if there were multiple surveys or multiple polls, you can select lots at one time and then perform these group actions on them. So as we can see, the group actions that appear here are delete, so I could delete all of my surveys if I wanted to, or I might just want to clear the results. But actually what we're interested in here is the export. So I've selected one survey here, and I'm going to press export. Now what that does, that will automatically download a file into my downloads folder. Now I'm using Chrome here. It may differ depending on the browser you use, but in Chrome this is just automatically downloading it into my downloads folder. And we can see here, so this file is, well, it's the title of our meeting we've got set up today, and then just appended with surveys. If this was polls that I was downloading, it would tell me that that's a polls file. Now the type of this file is a JSON file, that's JSON. Some of the more technically minded amongst you might understand what that is, but essentially it's just a sort of settings or configuration file. Now we use this method to just store the information of polls and surveys. The intention for this is not really to go in and edit it or do anything with it. If you do manage to open it and look in it, it may not make a lot of sense to you, but the idea is that you can store this and use it in a different meeting or a different session later on, or perhaps email it with your colleagues and share. So to demonstrate that, what I'm going to do now is import a survey. Rather than import the same one that I've just exported, Amy has very kindly created a survey for me before this and shared it with me. So I'll just show on the dashboard how that works. So we can see here now at the top I've got this import surveys button. So if I press import surveys, it pops up with a little box here. Now if I've got the file to hand, I can drag and drop it into this box, or I can click inside the box here to locate where it's stored. Now it is this one here, evaluation surveys. So I'm just going to click on that and press open. Now that automatically imports into here. So again, we've got these select all boxes here. So hopefully, well, this can demonstrate we've only got one survey here, but you can export multiple surveys or multiple polls into one file. Subsequently, when you import them, you can import multiple surveys at a time as well. Now we've only got one here, and that's the one that's selected. There's a little drop down or an expansion icon. So if we expand that, we can just see a quick summary of what's contained within this survey. A quick look at that. I know that's the right one, so I'm going to say yes, import. And now, as we can see, that survey has been imported. And if I click into it, we can see it's there, and all of our questions have appeared. Now, just one thing to note on this, we're only importing and exporting the data of the information related to the actual questions. We're not transferring across any data. So if you're exporting something that already had data in it, it's not capturing that data. It's purely just the actual questions themselves. What I will just quickly do is move over to our polls tab as well, just to show you we've got the same checkboxes here. So again, you can do the export on polls or any of these group actions as well. So moving back to surveys, now the eagle-eyed amongst you may have seen just a moment ago when I was on this, the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is this survey's description. So you can see I've now got some description text in here. So every time you create a new survey, you'll have the option to add a description. Now we have some stock text in there for a description, which you can use if you want or not. This is one that I'd prepared earlier, so it's slightly different. Now you can edit this text at any time. If I just click in there, so you can see it turns into an editor, and let me just call this a feedback survey instead. And I will just confirm that. So there we have the survey description, and we will see that in just a moment in the app itself. So now I think we will move on to the apps. So I'm just going to quickly start this survey, and I will drag in a web app onto my screen. So hopefully we can all see this now. Now, again, I'm sure the majority of you actually have this in your hands anyway, so you'll be able to see it on your device as we step through. So first thing to talk about here is the notification dot. So we can see, obviously, on messages, we had that before. When I click in, that obviously disappears. But we can see for the surveys as well, I have a red notification icon for the survey. So that's just alerting me to the fact that there is a survey available. Now, if I click into the survey, we can see that notification dot turns amber. And the purpose of that is to signal the fact that, I've seen the survey, I've registered that there's a survey there, and it's just telling me that I've looked at it. Now I can navigate through the app to any of the other tabs, and that amber notification dot remains there. So again, it's just an alert to say that it's not red anymore, I've seen it, I've acknowledged it, but I haven't yet completed or finished that survey. So what I'll just do now is go through and finish this survey, and as we do, we'll just touch upon some of the other things. So firstly here, again, the description. So we can see the description that I put on the dashboard has come through to the app here. So that's represented at the top. You can, if you want, completely clear the description out, so you don't have a description at all. But we think it's probably quite useful to have in there. There's no real limit on the length of that description, but obviously you just use judgment to yourself. You don't really want it being too big so it takes up all the screen and sort of hides the fact that the survey lies beneath it. So as we just go down to the survey, I'm going to step through and answer the questions. Now, one of the bits of feedback we had was just trying to make it a little bit clearer about the different question types and maybe providing a bit more instruction around the questions. So we've changed some of the instructional text for these questions. So we can see here, this is just a single choice question. And in this text here, it's just telling me select a choice will automatically send that response. So if I select one, it then changes the message as an acknowledgement to say thanks, but it's also telling me I can change the answer at any time, to do that, I just click on another option. So then if I move down, there's another question there that's the same. If I come to the third question, this is a multi-select one. So you can see the instructional text here is telling me what to do. So it's telling me I can select up to 4 choices and hit send. It's saying up to 4 choices, so I can actually select less if I want. As I'm selecting those, I can change my mind by clicking on them again. But once I'm happy with the ones I've selected, I hit send. So again, it's just giving me an acknowledgement, thanks. To change my answer this time, obviously this is locked in place, I'm going to have to hit clear. So I can clear that and submit a new one. So I'll send that. That's just another single choice one. And then lastly, we come on to the text question. So again, here the instruction, type in your response and hit send. So I'm just going to say the lecture was great. So again here, I will hit send. And then the instruction changes saying thanks. To remove your answer, hit clear. Now, one of the extra additions we've put in here as well is the ability to edit this response. So previously, if you wanted to edit your response, you would actually have to clear it and retype the whole text again. What we've got now is just this edit icon here, which is just a little pencil. So if I click on that, it retains the answer. I can just append it to something else and hit send again. Now, one thing just to touch upon here is this is slightly different depending on the platform you're using. So I think the Android native app and the web client app have this pencil icon to indicate edit. The iOS native app operates slightly differently. It doesn't have the pencil icon, but you can just click into the box to change that.
I think I'm right in saying that it's the same for the open text poll as well.
Correct.
That the same change has been implemented there.
That's right. That change has come through. Yeah. So that pretty much sums up the demonstration. So if you just bear with me for a moment, I will just move those aside so I can get back to the presentation. And that brings us on to what's next. So I'm just going to give a quick word on the future and what we've been working on and what you can hopefully expect in the near term next year. So we've been looking at a new rating type question, which we hope will be ready in the new year. This is something just very simple and basic, but it's one which we think will get a lot of use. So you may have seen one of the questions in that survey there was rating something from 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being good or excellent. So the idea of this rating question type will be a 5-star scale. So think of your review sites like Amazon, TripAdvisor or Trustpilot. There's no need to provide labels for what's good and bad. It's pretty self-explanatory. 1 star is not particularly good, 5 stars is great. And then results to show the spread of that and the average score that you get. After this, that could potentially then evolve into a more complex numerical input question, something where you can set upper and lower limits to a range. So, free entry of a numerical input. So it could be 10, 100, 1,000, possibly support decimals or maybe negative numbers if that's important to people. So that's just an example of what that could progress into. We've also begun work on supporting Microsoft authentication. So you could sign up for Meetoo or log in to your dashboard using credentials from a Microsoft account. This is something we're developing in a phased approach. So again, at some point in the new year, hopefully we'll be able to contact a few of you to begin to trial the rollout of this before we actually then make it available to everybody. The obvious evolution of this is going to be to bring in other third-party authentication, such as Google as well. Yeah. Another focus for us, particularly during the first half of next year, is going to be on refining our dashboard experience, making some improvements to features we already have, and hopefully maintaining the simple-to-use approach of Meetoo. One of the other things we want to explore as well is trying to assist you in making your life easier. So being able to create meetings that perhaps already contain some useful content for you, so you don't necessarily have to scratch your head and think, what question shall I try and think of to ask now? We're going to try and look at providing more sort of templated things so you can just have quick, easy-to-go meetings or sessions and classes as well. When we did a future forum earlier this year, one of the key bits of feedback, possibly I think from some of you who are on this, I know from some who were registered on this, actually said this at that forum. It was related to the KISS acronym, so that stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. Simplicity was and is one of the key focuses from the inception of Meetoo. And as it's developed and as we think of new things that we want to add, we always want to keep on top of the simplicity approach. We've identified plenty of areas on the dashboard experience which we feel could benefit from some improvements. So we'll be looking to slightly rework some of our existing features and the general flow of creating a useful tool to accompany you for your sessions that you run. That sums up a few of the things that we'll be looking at in the new year, amongst others, but more information will come on those when available. And I think that then takes us to the Q&A.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions. So I know there was some problems with people seeing the badge notifications and description in the app, but I'm 100% that will be. The app hasn't been updated. It's not a forced update like we have done in the past. So you do need to make sure that it's updated through the App Store to see those changes. Hopefully you've been able to do that now. One of the questions was, can we make the dots more colour deficient friendly? Or deficit, sorry.
Yeah, potentially. I think one of the things that we have considered perhaps is, obviously we've got the customizing of Meetoo. You can change the colours of the bars and some of the other things in there. One of the things we've considered perhaps is bringing the dots in line with that, or adding something so that perhaps on the customization you could alter the colour and set that for yourself, or so that it follows the theme of your app. So that's something potentially we could look into further, I think, if that's...
Is there a character limit for survey description?
There isn't necessarily a limit now. I was playing around with this actually, last week sometime, just looking at it, and I was, again, just trying to test some limits, and I think I put in something like 15,000 characters, and it still all worked absolutely fine. Now, I think I mentioned it earlier, obviously you don't really want to do something quite that long, because it's a big long essay and you just have to scroll all the way through before you actually get to your survey. So I think the quick answer to that is no, there isn't really a real limit to it, but just be sensible. You want to keep it usable still for the people filling out the survey.
I guess, though, for where it's relevant, you could actually post some content there that's relevant to the survey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of a possible use. Can you change the instructional text lines on the surveys to be more in line with client events?
I'm not entirely sure what we mean there by client events, but I'm guessing the theme of that is, can you yourself edit what the instructional text per question type? That's not something we've put in there at the moment. It's perhaps worth considering. Now, the only issue we have, I think, with those sort of considerations is if we start to make that stuff more customizable, it does add complexity to our dashboard. We can obviously look to ways to combat that, to having sort of advanced settings or something perhaps. But I think one of the reasons that we've tried to shy away from that for the moment is we're trying not to make it too complex on the dashboard.
But I guess with that, if someone has a suggestion in particular, then email it through to us at hello@meetoo.com.
Absolutely, If anybody, any of our features, but particularly just on some of the wording or the messaging, if people have very strong opinions about what it should say or how it should be worded, we're all happy to hear that feedback and take that into consideration.
A request from Adam, actually something that we talked about just the other day. Admin, so when you're an administrator, whether or not we can order the users. So this is only going to be relevant to people with multi-user dashboards. So to do with the user tab in the dashboard.
And I think that's a fair enough one there from Adam. So we do have quite a few people now who have some of these larger accounts where you've got multiple users in them. For those of you who just use this yourself, you'll probably only see that you've just got your name in that users tab. But for the larger accounts, you can have lots of people in there. We don't actually have a defined sort of sort order on those. That's a very fair comment, Adam. I think as these larger accounts have grown and we've got more people using them, absolutely. I think we're going to look into that, at least as a minimum, sort it by surname, and maybe give some options.
I personally would love that as well.
Amy's already requested that one.
There is a search function there, so you can, if you needed to, search for the person. Some sympathy with falling foul of app updates.
I spent a good half an hour on Amy's phone yesterday trying to figure out why Apple wasn't updating on it.
Definitely I fell foul of that yesterday. I use the Meetoo PowerPoint add-in and use polls regularly. Is there a plan to add the survey feature into the PowerPoint add-in? And can result summaries from surveys be produced in PowerPoint?
So we are looking to sort of address our PowerPoint add-in and make a few sort of updates and changes to it. Now, surveys aren't at the forefront of our mind for the PowerPoint add-in at the moment. I mean, there is potentially some things we could do there. I think the difficulty perhaps with survey is obviously you've got lots of questions in a survey, and what exactly do you want to appear in your PowerPoint presentation there, or do you actually want, the ability to open those surveys from your PowerPoint presentation when you're actually live presenting on screen? We're not absolutely ruling it out and saying no, but if you've got any ideas on how you think that should actually sort of operate, bearing in mind, you're presenting, you're on full screen, how do you think you should be sort of looking at your survey if you're presenting it as well? So we don't at the moment. We have sort of considered how surveys could fit in with the PowerPoint, but we haven't got any sort of concrete thoughts on that yet. But by all means, please contribute.
I think we've got one last question from Bruce. So, can you limit the time for changes to free text by respondents?
Can you limit the time
for changes to...
So, I think if I understand that correctly, we're sort of wanting to open the survey, let people respond to it, but put a time limit on how long they've got
to answer,
to actually answer it, or to make edits or make changes. Obviously, we don't have anything like that in at the moment. I mean, the time when it stops is when you on your dashboard, physically stop it. Now, I'm not sure if that's related to perhaps surveys in general. If you want to time limit surveys so that each person only sees it for half an hour or something like that, so they've only got half an hour to fill it out. I'm not sure if it's necessarily related to that, but if you could, I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about why you would want that, and what
and how you see it working.
What are the reasons why you might want to have that? That'd be good to know.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I think that's probably it, and a good time to move on. We do have a couple of quick feedback questions for you. Matt's going to kindly start the survey in the dashboard now. So just our usual feedback survey. Yep, that should be live now in the app for you. So if you want to move your attention back to the app and answer those questions for us, that would be lovely. Please do be honest. We do want these webinars to be useful for you. And whilst you are doing that little survey for us, I just wanted to highlight a couple of other webinars that we have coming up. So firstly, our next monthly customer success webinar is in January, which will be presented by myself and Dermot. And we'll be looking at sharing a few effective ways of using our survey feature. So that's in January, I think late January. Then in February and March, we have some to be announced very special guests who will be joining us to share their tips and stories of using Meetoo. I will be shortly posting the link out to our webinar page so that you can have a look there. They're not all posted up yet, but do go to that page if you are interested in registering, and obviously the normal emails will be going out to remind you as well. I'd also just wanted to remind you we do have a Jumpstarter webinar which runs weekly on a Tuesday. The dates are changing slightly over the Christmas period due to bank holidays, so the next two dates for that webinar are up on screen. So that webinar is for people that need a bit of a refresher on how to use Meetoo, but also for anyone new joining Meetoo that wants to quickly learn how to get started. And again, we'll post that link out to you shortly. What else have we got? Yes, so Trustpilot reviews. We're really trying to do a drive on getting our Trustpilot reviews increased. We're doing really well, and if you haven't posted us a Trustpilot review yet, then please do pop over to Trustpilot and drop us some feedback there. Also, don't forget our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe. Any videos that we produce or post will be uploaded there, as will this webinar, probably early next week. I think that's probably it for now. I don't think we've got anything else, apart from really just to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from all of the Meetoo team. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.